So, what does it mean to share? And, they tell us as kids to share our toys. But as adults, we often don't want to share information. But yet, today's guest brings a spotlight on the value of sharing information and how it builds community, how it builds trust, how it builds respect, and how people start to value you when you do that. So, there's an up and coming clothing line, Trev Clothing. Acronym: trust, respect, educate, value. Today, we have the CEO of Trev Clothing, Trevor Silver. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Empathize Others, the podcast. I'm into community, people that move communities and people that flow in and out of different communities. And today I got a brother that we knew each other, but we met the other week. We were both doing something in the classroom. And I said, Trevor, I got to get you on the podcast. And so today we have the CEO and founder of Trev Clothing, and we're going to find out way more. He does more than that, but right now, that's the huge thing that you do. And I see that your superstars are wearing your gear, and I seen your stuff in an NBA game. We'll get to that later on. But we want to welcome to the podcast Trevor Silver.
Hey, Augie, how's it going? Thank you for having me on here. Appreciate it.
No, listen, brother, I'm happy to have you on, and I always get fired up about bringing out people that are doing that community work. And a lot of times, if you heard the podcast or saw it, people reveal things about themselves, community things that people don't even know. So it's almost like the B side, that side that people don't know about, and that's the invisible side, Trevor, which is often the community work that we do that nobody sees. Right? We're gonna focus on that today. But I really want to thank you for making the time to fit me in your busy schedule. And when we start off, I often start off with how we were brought up and raised. So just want to ask you, when you were young, what was the community you grew up in, and what did that community mean to you? How did that community shape you?
So for me, growing up, so I grew up all around HRM, but predominantly I grew up in North Preston. So I've had experience in the white community, I have experience in the black community, and I found that like it's two different experiences, but it like kind of allowed me to become who I wanted to, or who I was meant to become, I guess. Because
Yeah.
when I'm in the white community, I'm black, and then in the black community, I was sometimes seen as white, I guess, more so
Yeah.
like as in being a light skin or whatever. So, but the upbringing, I would say, when it was in North Preston is more of like um, community based. I find it was more tight knit, like everybody knows everybody. And I feel like
Yes.
when it comes to just not just North Preston, but like as a black community as a whole, I feel like we're all one. If something affects someone in any black community, it affects us all, and we all feel, you know what I mean, the joy or the pain. And I feel like that's important to highlight. Also, yeah. So like coming up, do you want me to talk about specifically like
Well, no,
instances?
I wanted to. We'll get back into that, brother. We're just going to flow. But what you said was huge, though, because there's something. I was talking to Archie Beals, and he and I both work at NSCC Akerley College, so Nova Scotia Community College, and we talked about how we grew up. He was at Co Harbor, and I know you're a Co Harbor grad as well, and I
Yeah.
was at Queen Elizabeth.
Fair.
But we grew up just having this sense of community that you talked about. Like if something happens, the pain of community, we wear that, but the joy of
Hmm.
community, we wear that too. And talk a bit about, if you can, Trevor, the real positive side in North Preston, and I know it, and you know it, and the community knows it. But oftentimes there's a stereotype that's out there that's negative. But speak to that real strong sense of community
Oh, for
in
sure.
the North Preston
So
area.
it's so like I can use an analogy that I often use is like it's like one bad apple can spoil the bunch. So like some bad actors in the community may make the whole community look like this negative place, but it's only like probably 1% of the community, maybe.
Good point.
So that I feel like, and like I remember I interviewed a cab driver when I used to drive taxi cab, and when I was doing my undergrad, I interviewed a cab driver, and he was telling me how like people always think that being a cab driver is super dangerous, but like again, it's only the 1% of like the bad actors that you should fear or that you have to worry about, you know. So I would say there's so much positivity in my community when it comes to sports, leadership, church. The church, I feel like the church is the
Yes.
one thing. Like even historically, I feel like I remember asking my grandmother like what kept the black communities together back in the day, and she told me that it was the church. So like
Yeah.
all the everyone would go, and I remember going to Him Plains with my grandmother, the church out there, and it just she talked about how when she was young that she would go to the different churches, like all the black communities would visit each different church, and I feel like historically that's what allowed the black communities to stay connected how we are today, and I feel like yeah, that's like one of the big aspects of our community and what's like some of the positive traits are like just having faith. And like we came this way. We often say like we
Yeah.
came this
Yeah.
far from faith. And I feel like if you believe like for example, like we had no other choice but to make it. So look how far we've come and look how far we have to go. But like look at the things that we've overcome as a community. And I feel like even like every single person from where I'm from will
Yes.
have the same kind of the same undertone of what they represent. Like this, look how far we came from. Like we got put out here, we weren't meant to make it. Look, we made it, and now we still have far to go. You know.
Yeah, brother, that's strong, because out of adversity, and I remember I was in Jamaica and they said this, they said the word sufferation, and that when you suffer, there's something beautiful about sufferation, right? Because you learn and you become resilient and tough
Hmm.
and hardworking. And when you say the church for us, I think all over communities, church is kind of dissipated and how much power it has over the community, right? I think social media and all kinds of other things, just electronics, have led us away
Hmm.
from church. But to your point, Upper Hammonds Plains or Cornwallis Street Church, which is now being renamed, well, has been New Horizons, has been renamed. Those churches we know those churches from we were little kids, and not just for Sunday church. I remember
Hmm.
meal. We used to go there for lunches. We had day camps there. We had trips to other churches. We had picnics. Like the church was
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah, because
So
even me, I remember Sunday school at different churches. I remember going to Cherry Brook Church. I remember like going to different churches and you meet different people, and then like you grow up and you probably met the person at a different place, but then you're seeing them as as a teenager or whatnot,
yes,
and you still have connection even though you might not remember those times when you were a kid, but it continues to bridge that community, right? And to
yeah,
speak
and
on the resilient part that you were talking about is the harder it is for you to make it in life in general is it's like once you make it, it's it makes it so much easier that once you're there, if you get what I mean, where it's like the hardships and everything that you go through,
yes,
it
yes.
kind of makes it easier for you once you do finally make it if you push through it all, because all the stuff that you had to go through, like the struggle makes you stronger, and then it makes it so that like, hey, you'll look back and you'll be like, look how far I come, but I'll never go back to that place where I was, because not community, but like I'll never go back to that state or that mindset that I was in
Of course,
because I
you're right.
pushed through it.
Because
Now
we
look where
learn
I'm
though,
at.
that's the thing around what we may call, not, I would say hustling is street smart. It's not that. It's being able to overcome that you got a lot of debt on your hands, that you got interviews that you got to really prepare for because sometimes things are weighted against you. Like those are all skills, I think, Trevor, that once you get those skills down, then once you get to the top, like you say, you still use those resiliency skills, but
Hmm.
because you made it to a certain level, you don't need to do it to survive now. You're doing it to go forward. So those same
Yeah,
resiliency skills are now helping you build your company or flourish at university or build a family. That you're
100%.
not 17 anymore. You use those same hustle skills and street smarts and quick thinking to build. So I see where you're coming from exactly.
And using the
So
skills that you learn to teach others and like allow them to give them the alley of being like, hey, this is what I did, this is what helped me, and those are some of the tools that I use in order to help communities, like your podcast is empathize with others, and it's like you can't really empathize others without listening and understanding them and trying to give them
yeah.
the game.
Yeah, and sharing, and we're going to get to Trev clothing because embedded in that is community, like the way that you are trying to give back and circle back and all of that. So we're going to get there, but let's stick with Trevor growing up. And so I always get to the pubescent ages when you were high school because I find high school was always a shift in what we were going to do, right? So I know you went to Cole Harbor High, and I taught at Cole Harbor, and I love my time at Cole Harbor. Talk about the community and culture at Cole Harbor High School and what it did for you as helping set a foundation for you, whether through hard times or good.
Oh, for sure. So for me, it was like you were talking about earlier, about the community. Like the community at Cohaba was great. So the crazy thing for me is like I'm half black, half white. My mom's from Eastern Pastures, my dad's from North Preston. So coming up, I had ties in Eastern Passage, and I got ties in North Preston because that's where I'm from. So then going to Core Harbor High, it was more of a the community. Like I'm cool with everybody, so I always have relationships with everyone, and always build relationships with everyone. So I understood um, like the power of connection. But I actually learned that from one of my good friends. That was he's very how do I say it? He got a very high emotional IQ, so he's very good
Yeah,
at connecting with people, and I feel like I learned that from him. So when it came to going to high school, like I met lots of friends, made a lot of connections, and when it came down to some of the struggles that we may have had at school with the different communities and whatnot, how they try to like, well, some people's perspective is it's the race riot. Some people's perspective is it's like two different communities clashing. Um, my perspective is more so because I know the people in Eastern Passion and I know the people in North Preston. It's the not so much race, but race is something that people attach to it to use like the hate to like fuel the what do you call it the conflict I would say.
and
And
I
for
want to
me,
jump in there for just 1 second, Trev, just for the listeners. So, Cole Harbor High School is one school that buses in students from a black community, North Preston, and then they also bus in students from a white community, Eastern Passage, and that's kind of a unique situation at a high school. And so, I think it might have been the race ride that we referred to, Trevor, would have been 1990
yeah,
something.
yeah,
And so when there was a clash actually between adults that weren't even really in the school, and so there's always been this outside view that Eastern Passage and North Preston are at this school not getting along, but you're a perfect example that the community, you were from both those
yeah, hundred
communities.
percent.
So
And it's
so go
also like
further.
the
Go ahead.
for us, so like for us when we're in school, we have that precedent of like this is what you guys did before, like this is who you guys are. Like if you think about like in California, you got the Bloods and the Crips. For us going to school, like that precedent's already set. So like when you're in grade 10, it's like it's us versus them. You know what I mean? But I got friends from Eastern Passes, so it can't really be like that. It's more so
Yeah, yeah,
okay, my friends, I'm cool with these guys. I'm cool with these guys. So if you know my friend's friend is my friend, or my enemy's enemy is my enemy, so that's how we kind of like bridge the gap for me because one there was a time when um, I actually got expelled from school, and I was not saying that I could have prevented anything, but for that 6 month period. I wasn't able to connect with my friends over here and my friends over here. So during that time, there was a big riot and
yeah,
they had like a big
yeah,
fight like all the guys my age that were in school and like the various grades like they all fought each other and then it was in the news again kind of like a replaying of history for you guys' age when
yes,
they had the actual race riot it was kind of like a blow up of that and then the I come back to school it was more of a like a normal thing but my understanding of it was it's more so the precedent now that had it, and now that like Eastern Patrick's kids don't go to that school, a lot of my friends when we talk about it, it's more so it's a disservice to them because now they don't get to connect with the black community. They don't get to
good
become
point.
allies because a lot of Eastern Passage people are allies to the blacks, and it's not that everyone from there was either opposed or it was a like race thing. It was more so, two groups of people they don't get along, and if you're from this place, you got to click up with your crew. Like you're from that place, so you got to stand up for where you're from. And I feel like that's a lot of it. What it was from, like even from my Eastern Passage friends, like you can't if like for example, if you're from Eastern Passage or you're from North Preston, and you don't help out when, say there's, I don't know, five guys fighting, and you let the person get like ganged up or something, then it's, you still got to go back to your community, and they're gonna look at you like,
Yeah,
hey,
you
you
lose
didn't help us,
credibility.
Yeah,
Yeah, you
because it's
lose
like you didn't have our
credibility or
back, like,
yeah,
and
yeah,
that's the same thing of like, not, I'm not promoting violence or anything, but like when you hang out with people, you kind of have to have the back, whether it's an argument, whether it's a fight. But if they're wrong, you got to be able to be the leader in the crew and be able to step up and say, "Hey, we're not doing that today." And I feel like that's one of the things that a lot of people, they default on becoming a follower. So if there is two groups of people that are getting ready to fight, people that aren't usually, not that they're not man enough, but they're not confident enough or whatever to step up and
yeah,
say, "Hey,
yeah,
bro, we're not going to do it like that." And I feel like that comes from experience, but it also comes from like being a leader, like having the leadership qualities of saying like, hey,
yeah,
yo, we ain't doing that. And also you want to lead your friends and your community into positive outcomes. Like that, there's nothing positive really can come out of that outside of the um the reconciliation, like the two people coming together after they fight. Because
yeah,
there's been
yeah.
times when I fought when I was younger, and like the people that I had fights with afterwards were way cooler than we could have ever been in life if we didn't fight.
No, you're making a good point, Trevor, and you're also talking about like you are that leader and you are that mediator, and it doesn't come now. You're a leader in the business world and in the community, but yet that didn't come from nowhere. Like think about that. Like you were when you were suspended from school and you weren't on the ground, then that mediator was missing. A teacher couldn't do it, principal couldn't do it, other followers couldn't do it. And so
Hmm.
as when you're at Co Harbor and you're getting these leadership skills, and it also seems like you're starting to believe in equity, like what's fair and what's equitable, right? And that's also makes you a leader. As you're graduating from Co Harbor, well, what are you thinking about at that time is going to be your next step?
So like that was like a critical thing, and I think it was like grade 11. So that time that I got put out of school, I kind of had to reflect on, be like, man, I'm about to graduate soon, like in a year. So like, what am I gonna do with my life? And I kind of felt like, um, from like, I don't know, from the older people in the, that not, how do I say it? I was more attracted to going the like the wrong or like a negative route in life. And so for me, it was like, if I follow the footsteps of XYZ, then I'm gonna be like XYZ. And but then there was a question mark of like, okay, but if I go this route, like what could come? I already know what can come about this. I know where I can go, where they've gone, the successful people in these fields.
Yes,
Just talk about like the streets, like when it comes to like selling drugs or um, pimping or whatever, prostitution. That type of stuff is a lot of the stuff
yes,
that is kind of not necessarily promoted, but it's what you see as success when you're younger. Like the people that have things
yeah, because
from
they have
like
money.
yeah, yeah.
They
So
have
like when
money.
you think
Yeah.
about coming from like a um uh lower income community or whatever, it's like that's who you see with things. So that's what attracts you when you're like, okay, well
Yes.
that's
Good
what
point.
success is. That's what I want. Obviously I'm gonna do that.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna go, you know what I mean? So for me it was like, okay, do I do that or do I do the other route? And then my thing was like, okay, well, when I was younger, I had an idea of becoming a lawyer, and one of my aunts, she used to always call me Harvey. Like I don't know if you know Harvey Dent from like the Batman series, but like
Yeah.
those things like kind of like geared me more towards like maybe I could become a lawyer. And then it was like, okay, well, I could become a lawyer. I could help my friends and family and the community get out of trouble. And then on that journey, like even like getting to university, it was like I started to realize like if I become a lawyer and I get people out of trouble, it's not teaching them the lesson. It's not giving them the understanding of like, oh, like you commit a crime, you get in trouble for that, Versus my idea when I was younger was like, oh, I'll become a lawyer so I can get them out of trouble. But it's more so like we have to learn that like these aren't the right roads for us to take. Like we got to take better roads. So
Yeah.
luckily for me that I decided to like have the dream. Okay, I'm going to become a lawyer because A, I want to be financially free. B, I want to do something for the community. And C, I want to inspire. So I want to be able to be that person that I never had. Like I never had a black male lawyer in university to look, or a black male lawyer in the community so that I could look up to and say, hey, I want to be like him when I grow up. So I wanted to be that. I wanted to be that. And I feel like that was like one of my main motivating factors because if like say for example my older brother, if he does street activity, then I do street activity, then my younger brothers, they're gonna default to try to do street activity. So for me it's like if I go to school, then it gives my younger siblings
Ah,
a okay, I'm looking up to him. And I kind of always had that in my mind of like whatever I do, the younger people are gonna be like inclined to follow what I do if I'm doing it right. And then
yes.
that would that's kind of like one of my main things. I always would like talk about my younger brothers, like my cousins that I grew up with. So you know, if you're black, your cousins are your brothers. So for me, I always try to
Yeah.
use that as like one of my strong motivating forces. And yeah, so that's and like if I was to fast forward, if I could just shimmy from high school to university, so
Yes.
like my first year actual university, like oh I'll even say so TYP transition year program. If it wasn't for the transition year program, I wouldn't even have pursued education. I wouldn't even have went to Dalhousie. I wouldn't even have probably went on to go to law school. So transition year program. I have a cousin that's from Uniac Square. He's half black like myself, and he entered the TYP program. And so it was similar to the thing about I seen him do that, so I pursued like, oh, I can go to school too. Like if he can do it, I can do it too. You know what I mean? We grew up the same circumstances, so if he could do it, like I know I can do it. And it kind of gave me that boost of confidence. So then fast forward, I passed that, got into my first year, actual year, and then my best friend was murdered. So for me, when it comes to that, it was more so I was like, I'm doing all this. I'm going to school. I'm trying to show these guys like we could do other things besides the streets. And it's like in real time, like people are passing away. Like we've already been going through that type of stuff when we were in high school, but it's
Yeah.
more so like I can't stop it. Even if I go become something or if I go to school, it's more so I kind of gotta for the younger people, people my age, I can't save. You know, it's people that are younger that and not that I could save them. It's more so like I can hope to inspire them. You know,
Well,
and
yeah, and when you talk about the role model piece, and this is where there's some intersections around what you're talking about, because if you can't see it, you can't be it, right? And so
hmm
for me, my dad was Rocky Jones, and you talked about his influence,
yeah,
and I didn't even know you went to TYP. So my dad created that transition year program 55 years ago, right? So
yeah,
to say that that's the gift that keeps on giving, that makes me smile because Irvin Carvery, Louis Gannon, the Judge Shauna Hoyt. There's so many people that went through the transition year program that are now professionals, and you're another example of that. And then you
hmm
did say to me when we first met that you heard my dad talk, and that had an influence on you too. So again, and obviously, I had the privilege of having him around me all the time. So it's not a
hmm
surprise the way I went because you follow what you see,
yeah,
right? Just to your
100%.
point, right? So,
hmm
so now and I heard, I watched a YouTube clip of you, and you said, once you got into the IB&M law program, which my dad created too,
hmm
um, you just thought, wow, I'm in. And then you thought, yeah, I did it. Now I got other things I want to do. Explain that.
Yeah. So like for me, like I kind of, so it was different. It was a different type of thing. So like the motivation for me to go and become a lawyer wasn't as strong as I initially thought. So I thought this is what I wanted to do. Like even I drove taxi cab. I had a limo business. Sold those. Sold my cab. Sold my limo. Once I started law school because I thought law school was the end all to be all. But that first year, I was like, you know do I want to be in this place my whole life? Do I want to be like, not saying I don't want to be around these people, but like, do I want to be in this environment, in this culture for my whole life? And the answer was no, but I didn't know for sure. And then once
Yeah.
I worked at a firm that summer, like I'm around lawyers, I'm around like the environment, I'm seeing how it is, and then I kind of was just like I know this ain't for me, but like I worked so hard and I went to school. Like the only reason why I went to university was for this. And it's so beautiful that I went to university because if I didn't have that dream, I wouldn't have got all the education. I
Yes.
wouldn't have found the
Yes.
value of education. And like today, education is super important, even like not just formal education, but self education and just being
Yes.
able to learn, grow, and have a growth mindset and always be willing to self develop. So that, but then so that summer when I went to law, worked at the firm for internship, and then I read this book called Simon Sinek, Start with Why,
Yes.
while I was developing the Trev clothing brand. So it was this summer. And then going into my second year, my grandfather passed away in September, and I already had the brand developed already. And so I took a medical leave of absence. So I kind of, my grandfather passed away, rest in peace. He was an entrepreneur. He raised animals, like sold pigs. He did like many different things, and he was like one of my inspirations. Both of my grandfathers were entrepreneurs. So
Yes.
when he passed away, I kind of took that as a sign of like, hey, you got this idea, try to take it and go do something with it. You got a medical leave. You could always come back to law school if you want to. And I said, well, I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try. So like I just went and
Nice.
tried it, and then
Nice.
couple like it was a grind. Like I thought it would be easier. Like I've always been a creative ever since I was younger. Like always been into fashion, always was into clothes, always was into art. Like for me, art was my favorite subject when
Yes.
my friends didn't understand art. They were just like, oh, that's foolish. Like, why you know what I mean, taking your time. But like when I was in art class, time flew by. Like any other class, I'm just looking at the clock. But in art is like the time just went so fast. So for me, I loved art, and that was one of my passions. So then I was able to come up with the very first design while I was in law school. It's the the balanced success design with the scales of justice. One side has a heart, one side has a dollar sign.
I
So
have
it's
it on the
work.
back of my computer, brother.
Yeah.
I
So
got
it's
that on the
work
back of
money.
my computer.
That's right. The idea is work, money, career, family, love, friendship, and you have to balance to succeed. So a lot of that, I like that design. I had that design, and then one of the big pushes for me was Alex McLean with the East Coast Lifestyle. He kind of was like like I was looking up to him, like man, if he can do that, like I can do it. So then transition to me just trying to make it and then just continuing to grow. And then I realized like, hey, I'm a creative. I can design a little bit, but I have to actually put in the work and learn how to make designs, how to make things that people will want, how to market, how to build brand. So there's so many things that I had to learn on the way that like I never really tapped into before. But you know, when you got friends that are entrepreneurs and Novell Provo, he's from the community.
Of
He's a big
course.
inspiration for me, and he gives me a lot of
Yes.
good advice because he went away to study finance and the game and experience that he brought back because he went to the US to study. And when he came back, he was just able to like any questions that we have, he's able to answer, you know what I mean? And I feel like
And let
it's
me slow you
important.
for a second, oh, Trev. Let me, because we gotta, for the audience, I gotta fill in some gaps. So, your Trev clothing line, and people can go and Google that and see the great stuff that Trevor has out there. But the acronym is trust, respect, education, and value. And I love that, brother. And so when you talk about the
I'll give
education
you a show
piece,
of it.
there you go.
So
That's it right
what
there.
is it? So the logo is a T, R, E, and a V. So most people see it like this when it's on things, but then it represents the trust, the respect, the education, and value. So you have
Love
to
that.
trust yourself, respect yourself, educate yourself, value yourself, and others to succeed. So developing the brand, it was all about the strong principles for success. And I wanted the brand to become a symbol for success, and at the very least, to remind people of these principles when they see it.
So I have one other piece I got to bring in. So Jordan Croucher. So Jordan was on the podcast, and he was talking about from the time he came from Toronto to Uniac Square, he was singing, and people were like, "Man, what you singing for?" That is the same as you as an artist, right? And it's funny how God will help that if you follow your inner path of what you really want to do. So the law thing is what you thought you wanted to do. Jordan thought he wanted to play basketball. And really, you were good at law. You could have been a lawyer. And Jordan, I
Hmm.
coached Jordan at St. FX. He was fantastic basketball player. But the cool thing is that you both tapped into that inner knowledge of, but you want to know what? Art and creation and fashion and marketing. That was your
Hmm.
thing, Trevor. And Jordan's thing was singing. And now Jordan's one of the best R&B artists in Canada. And you got one of the best clothing lines in Canada, right?
Hmm.
So to the
Thank
people,
you. I
especially
appreciate that.
young people, it's really kind of following that inner passion that you always like to do because God gives us indications of what we're good at. For me, it was teaching, right? And I've traveled the world teaching. I taught in Jamaica, I taught in St. Lucia, taught in the Bahamas, and that's been my flag that I carry all the time. So I just wanted to bring that out and circle back to you, Trev. So you're an entrepreneur, you start Trev Clothing. One of the things I wanted to ask you about, which really interests me, because everyone thinks that they can design clothes. I got my own little thing here, and that's just my logo. That's I'm an amateur, trust me.
Oh,
But
I
when I
love it. I
see the
love it
thing,
though.
the things that you're doing, brother, like what was it like being in a new community, which is the fashion community? So I know you talked about Alex McLean. You also mentioned a female professor, I think that was instrumental in fashion. So talk about the fashion community as you enter that community.
So one of the things that I want to touch on for that, so Elle Jones taught a creative writing class, and she brought in a bunch of different entrepreneurs, and one of them was Lisa Drader Murphy that has a fashion brand, and that was around the same time of like the Alex McLean with the East Coast lifestyle. She came to the class to talk about her brand and how she developed her brand, and that's kind of those things were kind of like planting the seeds for me to be like, okay, I'm going to start like this because this was pre law school. This is before law school. This is probably like a year or two before. But them
Okay.
coming and planting those seeds kind of gave me those ideas in the back of my head to go forward. And yeah, what was the question that you
Yeah,
were?
so now that you're in
Uh,
the fashion industry, because
oh, the
you're
fashion one.
now you're seeing it starting to blow up a bit. What's it like in that community? And I know Novell, and actually Novell, as we know, Novell Provo from North Preston also won awards at St. Mary's, at the
Hmm.
Sobey School of Business around entrepreneurship. So he blew it up there too as well. And shout out to Novell. But as you get to the
Always.
fashion industry, which is different, it's a different than a restaurant, right? So what tell me about the fashion industry from an insider's point of
S-
view, the community of it.
So so like for me, when it comes to like the fashion community, is more so like reaching out to Alex McLean, him becoming one of my mentors. I feel like you got to be willing to get the door slammed in your face, I guess, like get no's or get rejected because these mentors, like Alex McLean, is instrumental in some of the ideas that I've had that have allowed me to continue to grow. So I would say the community um, is it's a great community. It's the people are open, like Alex McLean, Lisa, um, anyone that I've ever reached out to always like give me good feedback, or they're always able
Yeah,
to
that's kind
like
of
be a
crazy because you expect it to be competitive, right? Like
yeah.
to a certain extent. So as it's growing now, as an entrepreneur, what are the next steps for you as far as Trev Clothing? I also know that you are doing your business management degrees
Hmm.
at Dow, like, and
Yeah, I
that's
still got a
obviously
few credits
just
to get.
so that's feeding into Trev really because that's a business. What do you see for
Hmm.
the future?
So for the future of the brand.
And for the future of your community work, like do those two things kind of go together for you?
Oh, definitely, definitely. So, because you've seen the Black History design that we've released, so
Yes.
for me, the future is bright. I see the brand continuing to grow in Nova Scotia. I see myself continuing to do community work, to be able to be there for the community. Like just be able to talk to, mentor, um, like give the kids alley oops because I feel like that's important because the because even me and Naval and those guys we all often talk and try to think about like how can we inspire the next generation, and I feel like those conversations and asking that and trying to figure it out are important for us because like our legacies alone mean nothing if our community's legacy doesn't continue to flourish.
Yeah,
And
and you bring people forward. You want to make sure that that and my dad did that for me. My mom did that for me. There's people in the community that if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be there. And I think you want to leave your legacy, which you already have. I think you're inspiring
100%.
more kids than you know. And me and you sat in a classroom together, judging a contest for a junior high classroom because we both knew it was important for us to
Hmm.
be there for those kids to see us. And these were black kids
100%.
and
And,
white
and
kids.
and and any chance I get when people reach out to me, I do everything that I can because I understand that it's an obligation because we have to be there for the next generation. If it's building allies, if it's building our own people, it's important. So to speak on when you were talking about competition. I find like when it comes to community, when it comes to different types of communities, a lot of people will look at things like competition when it comes to our own communities or when it comes to the fashion community. And I've never ever looked at anything like it's a competition because even though we might have the same customers, we might have different products or we might have a different way of selling it. So for me,
Yeah.
I'm always willing to give whatever information that I have to anybody, even if they got, if they even copy my brand or they got the same type of ideas, it's because if I give them information and they can take it and use it and it works, I know that I have good information. So for me, it's always open to share, always open to give that knowledge because, uh, like I say all the time, like I'm not a hoarder of information. Like if I have information that I know can help somebody, why would I hold it back? You know, or if I see
And that's
somebody
a
doing something.
key. Yeah, brother, that's a key point, and I'm over 10 episodes deep, and you're kind of the first person that brought up the point so explicitly about sharing, right? So if you
Hmm.
think about North Preston and Eastern Passage and the places that you live, people who you considered your community shared with you. You think about
Hmm.
when you were at TYP and you took classes from Mel Jones, and when the people that influenced you. I know you said my dad spoke once and he influenced. They were all willing to share information, and I
Hmm.
think
Hmm.
that's what empathize others is for me. I have you on this podcast, brother, so you can share your information. You know what I mean?
Thank you.
And then it just spreads out, right? And I think you hit on something today, which is a really strong point. Is that if you are in a community, it means that you don't hoard stuff. You pass it on and you let other people use it. And even if it looks like imitation's flattery,
Hmm.
right? So I
100%.
think you're doing it. I think you're doing it the right way, Trevor. And you know what? I really want to thank you for your time today. Uh, so happy that I know that when you're an entrepreneur, you got a lot of things on the go. I would encourage people to go on the internet, and I know you already saw Trev Clothing. Uh, Lots of people have, but if you have not, please go on his website. Look at some of the gear. You got a hoodie on there. You got that yellow hoodie you have on there, brother,
Hmm.
and it's sold out right now. Trust me, I've been
Yeah,
on
yeah.
now for a while, but I love the gear you're making. Trevor, I'm proud of you as an older guy in the community and as Rocky's son. I'm really proud of what you're doing and the way that you're circling back and giving back. And I really want to thank you for your time today.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate that.
Thanks for watching this episode of Empathize Others, the podcast. We hope that you really enjoyed the show. If you're enjoying the podcast series overall, as much as we enjoy making it, make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps our channel grow, and when you subscribe, you'll know right away when our new episodes are released. Did you know you can also listen to Empathize Others, the podcast, on audio platforms? You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, Stitcher, and almost anywhere quality podcasts are found. We hope to see you there too. And if you'd like to learn more about Empathize Others overall, please visit our website at www.empathizeothers.com, follow us on Twitter at EmpathizeOthers, or catch us on Instagram at empathize_others. Thanks again for listening to this episode. I'm Augie Jones.